We are here today through the courtesy of the ARA NAEP Study SIG to present a webinar on the high school transcript study. The webinar's title is Examining High School Course Taking and Academic Performance, 2019 NAEP High School Transcript Study. The presenters today are going to be myself, Robert Perkins, and Lisa Hamilton. Kavmui Marangi, who is the director of the High School Transcript Study project here at Westat, is unable to make the presentation today, so we will continue on. Today's agenda for this presentation, we're going to give a brief overview of the NAEP High School Transcript Study. We're also going to talk about some of the changes in the methodology to the High School Transcript Study that occurred in 2019. We're going to show a few ways that the HSTS data can be analyzed. We're going to focus on HSTS results mathematics courses, focusing on a subject that was brought up during the NAGB release event for the HSTS Web Report. And then finally, we're going to talk about the various resources for HSTS data, where you can work with the HSTS data or you can get your hands on the HSTS data. And with that, I will pass it over to Lisa Hamilton.
Hello, and thanks, Rob, for introducing. We are going to start with an overview of the high school transcript study. So as a reminder for those involved, the study collected high school transcripts from a nationally representative sample of public and private high school graduates. It analyzes trends in high school graduates' course taking, so what courses they take, how many credits they earn, and what grades they receive over the years that they're taking courses in high school. And the other thing the study is able to do is it links the course taking measures to graduates' results on the NAEP 12th grade mathematics and science assessments. So we're able to see how achievement is related to course taking. You can go to the next slide. Specifically about the 2019 HSTS, we had more schools in the sample than any previous study we've done. So we had approximately 1,400 public and private schools in our sample. This accounted for 47,300 high school graduates. And on all of those transcripts of all the graduates we collected, there were over 2,327,000 transcript courses that were processed and analyzed. The data in our report for 2019, we related it back and compared it with the previous 3 decades. So the 2009, 2000, and 1990 high school transcript studies. Next slide. For 2019, there were a few changes in our methodology for HSTS. We'll go over these in more detail on the next slide, but the first one is allowing for expanded electronic data collection. And the second was a switch to the SCED course classification system. So the school courses for the exchange of data, that's what SCED stands for. And let's move to the next one and we can go more into the electronic data collection. So before 2005, HSTS collected all transcripts directly from schools with field staff visiting schools and collecting paper transcript. All of that data had to be entered into the system manually and keyed in and then coded. In 2005 and 2009, there was an option for states able to provide them to provide electronic transcripts, and that was for, but only I think 2 jurisdictions took advantage of that, but that kind of allowed us to see that it could reduce both costs and data errors for data entry. In 2019, we expanded that electronic option to all schools, districts, and states. And we got transcripts in a variety of formats. We got different databases, Excel files, and PDF of scanned transcripts. So we got many different versions of electronic files, but definitely many took advantage of that opportunity to submit online. The second major change in methodology was switching from the CSSC, Classification of Secondary School Courses, to the SCED, the School Courses for Exchange of Data. This was a decision made in 2013 by NCES that required all transcript studies to switch to this new coding system. This switch affected a few things in the study. So for different course taking trends, it affected the different course taking trends because it switched a few of the courses into different subject areas. For instance, in the old system, journalism was classified as an English class, whereas in the new system, it is in the communication and audiovisual technology section. Other switches, such as ESL courses, were moved from foreign language to English. And another example would be for engineering, that was moved from the science department to its own section in the career and technical education sections. So with these switches, there were a few differences of how we looked at, how many English courses were taken and those kind of measures. So all of the previous studies were recoded from CSSC to SCED to allow for course taking trends to be reported for all years. And this was done using a crosswalk file, which was developed by the SCED working group. And thus we now have trend for all the years. A little more about the SCED code. The SCED code has 4 different elements. The first is the base code, and this has the first 2 digits are going to be the course subject area. So you have your subject areas like English, math, science, social studies, and so on, and also some CTE subject areas like agriculture courses, health and human services, other things like that. You also have a course level, and that is indicated by a letter in the SCED code, and it can indicate a general course, honors, college level, or a basic level course. We also have credits that are represented by Carnegie credits in the SCED code. So 1 credit equals a full year-long course. And then a course sequence. So if the course is in a, if you have Spanish 1, 2, 3, 4, it can be accounted that these courses have prerequisites and are part of a series. The HSTS also added some additional flags, which is allowed by the SCED system since it's more flexible. And we looked at we added a flag if those courses were special education. Also, if the course was taught in a language other than English, and if the course was an online course. Moving on to the different analyses that are offered by the HSTS data. The first thing we look at was some of the summary measures. So we have credits and overall grade point, and grade point averages. And these are available for overall for different course types. So academic, career and technical education, and then an other category. And also some course subject areas as defined by SCED. So we looked at credits and grade point averages for math, science, English, all of the main course subject areas. And we also looked at specific math and science subjects. Some other overall coursework measures that are analyzed by the HSTS are curriculum levels. Curriculum levels is a HSTS defined category, and it looks at different rigorousness of coursework taken over the 4 years. We also looked at highest level course completed in mathematics and science. So if students reached Algebra 2, pre-calculus trig, calculus, or so on. Some further analysis provided by the HSTS are some indicator variables for course taking. So did students take certain math, science, and social studies courses, STEM courses, science, technology, education, and mathematics, or those career and technical education courses. So we looked at, for STEM and CTE, we were looking at, how many credits did they take in those and what percentage of students were taking those courses. We also are able, as mentioned earlier, we are able to link the course taking data with the 12th grade mathematics and science assessment scores. And these are based on a reconditioned scores based on the HSTS high school graduate sample. So the HSTS uses a subsample of all students who took the 12th grade mathematics and science assessment, since we are looking at those who graduated. So the NAEP scores look a little different than what is on the general NAEP 2019 release. And these can be linked to all course taking measures. So we have a lot of data that can be linked to this achievement for the NAEP scores. Okay, and then the last thing that the HSTS data can look at is the results can be crosstabed by school and student demographics and background questions. So we have the typical subgroups of gender, race, ethnicity. We have NSLP status, school, urban-centric locale, census region, etc. And these are available for all graduates. For those where we have NAEP assessment scores, we also have all of the student and school questionnaire data that NAEP has. So we're able to use that questionnaire data to look at the HSTS data and link it to the course taking. You can also create your own course taking measures, including individual courses, with access to the restricted use data files, and a link to information about how to gain access will be presented later. And I'm going to pass it off to Robert Perkins to delve deeper into the 2019 data. And you are muted still.
Okay, let's try that again. So we're exploring some of this data that is presented in the HSTS Web Report, but we wanted to focus on the initial presentation of the HSTS report. This was back in April when NAGB did a release event for the report. And at that time, Dr. Peggy Carr, who is commissioner of the NCES, talked about looking at the NAEP scores of high school graduates, looking at the changing composition of high school graduates in terms of student race ethnicity, and looking at how much scores can be accounted for the change in the composition of high school graduates. And she mentioned that the high school transcript study could provide additional data there, including some surprising data about Black high school graduates. And so it was covered. It was covered pretty quickly in this release event, and so I wanted to try to cover it in a little more detail here. Basically, going from top to bottom. So basically, starting off with some general information uh, concerning the mathematics course results, etc., and then working all the way back, all down to what Dr. Carr was talking about during the event. So, let's start with a general thing about looking at the number of Carnegie credits, number of high school credits that graduates earn over time, 1990 to 2019. And as Lisa mentioned before, one Carnegie credit is equal to a year-long course. And so we're looking at basically the number of credits they've earned during high school credits they've earned during their career. Not only covering 9th through 12th grade, but including courses that they took before 9th grade that still counted for high school credit. And as you can see here, a number of credits have been climbing over time. It goes from 23.6 in 1990 all the way up to 28.1 in 2019. And if you look, it's like been a 2000 to 2009 is a full credit, and 2009 to 2019 is almost a full credit. And you can take a look at we break down the courses in 3 subjects. Uh, Academic, which covers courses like English, mathematics, science, social studies, visual and performing arts, and world languages. There's also the CTE subject area, which covers the 12 subjects subject areas that SCED defines for career and technical education courses. And then other courses. And other courses are things like uh, physical education, health, uh, driver's ed, religious courses, mostly for private schools, military science, and other miscellaneous courses. So looking at the credits here in this figure, the light blue bar on the bottom shows academic courses. The more middle blue is career technical, and the darker blue on top is the other courses. And you can see as even as credits are going up, most of that increase is coming from the academic credits. Like for example, there was 20.8 academic credits earned in 2019, 20.2 in 2009. That's a difference of 6 credits, and that's made up about 2/3 of the overall credits that were here. Uh, for the rest of that, it was a 1/10 of a credit increase in CTE courses and 2/10 of credits in other courses. And you can see the academic increased over time, other courses increased over time, but CTE dropped from 1990 to 2000 down to 2009 and 2019. So there was a drop of courses there. Um, we won't cover why. A quick explanation on why this happened is, well, one of the major reasons is that business and marketing courses dropped over time, especially from 2000 to 2009 and onward. But that is for more explanation for later. So we've seen that the credits are increased over time and academic credits increased over time. So let's take a look at the academic credits. And for the first time in 2019, as noted by their headline, mathematics credits were more than 4 credits on average. So high school graduates in 2019 took 4.2 credits in mathematics. And again, that means they're taking more than 1 math course every year, if you're looking at it from a 9th through 12th grade perspective. And again, this is partially because of an increase of credits earned for high school courses, high school credits earned before 9th grade. So students are earning more credits coming into high school than, before 9th grade than they have before. And you can see that this is a full credit increase since 1990, 3.2 to 4.2. Now, looking at the other subject areas, you can see that English went from 4.1 credits to 4.5 credits. Science, life and physical sciences went from 2.8 to 3.7, so almost a full credit increase there. Social studies went from 3.5 to 4.0, and then visual performing arts 1.5 to 2.3, and world language and literature 1.6 to 2.2 credits. But again, the biggest story that jumped out within the academic credits is that mathematics courses had, again, increased enough that it finally um, passed the 4 credits barrier. So since we were talking earlier about and again, the composition of the high school graduates and, by student race ethnicity, well, what did the student race ethnicity groups do for mathematics credits? Were there any differences in the credits earned? So that's what this chart shows. And essentially, the answer is no. um, each, each of the 4 reported student race ethnic groups here, white, Black, Hispanic, and Asian Pacific Islander, have all increased credits from 2009 to 2019 in mathematics courses. And you can see that it is pretty, uh, pretty much stable, 3.9 credits for whites in 2009 to 4.2 in 2019, 4.0 in 2009 for blacks to 4.3 credits in 2019. Hispanics went from 3.7 to 4.1 credits, and Asian Pacific Islanders went from 4.1 to 4.4 credits. So everybody basically increased about a third of a credit. And you can see these are all have been increasing over time since 1990. So, so they're earning more math credits, but the question is, are they taking higher level math courses? And so the next slide here it shows the percentage distribution of high school graduates across the highest level mathematics courses earned from 1990 to 2019. And by mathematics courses earned, we mean that they took the course and they earned credits in the course. So this doesn't include the students who, like, say, you know, passed Algebra 2, took a pre-calculus course, but flunked the pre-calculus course and didn't earn any credits. Their highest level would be set at Algebra 2. So here, we break the highest level categories into 5, and working our way from the bottom of the figure up, it would be Algebra 1 or below. Geometry is their highest level earned. Algebra 2, pre-calculus statistics and trigonometry, and at the top of the bar is calculus. Now that pre-calculus statistics and trigonometry category is a conglomerate of courses. It's essentially courses that students generally take after Algebra 2, but before calculus. And so it includes things like, again, like pre-calculus, trigonometry, probability and statistics, and mathematical analysis, and a few other courses. So as you can see, uh, the percentages of students, percentages of high school graduates whose highest level math course was Algebra 1 or below has gone down over time. It was 28% in 1990. It's down to 2% in 2019. If you're looking at the highest level for geometry courses, it went from 15% in 1990 down to 8% in 2019. For Algebra 2, that seems to have stayed stable. So Algebra 2 is been 33% in 1990. Yeah, all right, 33% in 1990. It went up to 36% in 2000, but came back down to 33% in both 2009 and 2019. So the biggest gainer in the this chart is for the pre-calculus statistics and trigonometry courses, which would make sense. If they're earning more than 4 credits, this is usually the fourth course in the sequence, the mathematics sequence in high school. If, Algebra 1 being your first course, geometry second, Algebra 2 third, it would be a pre-calculus or something similar. That would be the fourth course, and your calculus would be your fifth course. So it makes sense that the percentage here is growing. And it's grown from 16% in 1990 all the way up to 41% in 2019. Calculus itself, 7% of graduates earn credits in calculus courses in 1990, went up to 18% in 2009, and then dropped down to 16% in 2019. So this is it is it is a significant decrease between 2009 and 2019, and one of the reasons that can be seen is that the students are again taking more courses like statistics instead of calculus going in. So again, this is looking at the highest level mathematics courses for all graduates. How about breaking this down by student race ethnicity? So this chart again, the bottom up, you can see from bottom up, the highest levels are Algebra 1 or below, geometry, Algebra 2, pre-calculus statistics and trigonometry, and calculus. And for each of the years, the bars go for whites, blacks, Hispanics, and Asian Pacific Islander graduates. So the noticeable thing here is that in 2019, 44% of Asian Pacific Islander graduates earned credits in calculus courses. That's compared to 18% of white graduates, 9% of Hispanic graduates, and 6% of Black graduates. And you can see that the 44% hasn't changed from 2019 because we remember overall the uh, overall percentage dropped for calculus. The Hispanics didn't have a significant decrease, didn't have a significant change either. It was white graduates going from 20 to 18 and Black graduates going from 9 to 6 that fueled that drop, that overall drop. But again, these numbers are still higher than what we see in both 1990 and 2000, the percentages getting there. We also see that for white graduates and Black graduates and Hispanic graduates, that the percentage getting to pre-calculus statistics and trigonometry has increased again over time from 1990 to 2009 and again to 2019. 33 to 41 for whites, 28 to 43% for Blacks, and 26 to 41% for Hispanics. So you're seeing that more Blacks and Hispanics are definitely getting into that pre-calculus statistics and trigonometry level. And again, just like we showed in the overall, the percentages in the Algebra 1 or below and geometry category have fallen over time. Thing. So now I'm going to show you a table that that this is what Dr. Carr was talking about during her presentation. This is actually looking at the NAEP 12th grade mathematics assessment scores of high school graduates by student race ethnicity for 2005, 2009, and 2019. And we chose these years because these are the years where the current that are with the current 12th grade mathematics framework adopted by NAEP. It was revised in 2000 prior to 2005, so 2005, 2009, and 2019 all share the same framework. And so you can see in the first columns for each is the percentage distribution of graduates. So like, for example, in 2005, you had 69% white, 13% Black, 12% Hispanic, 5% Asian Pacific Islander, 1% American Indian and Alaska Native, and 1% other. And you can see that that distribution has been changing over time, mostly by the percentage of white graduates among the 12th grade high school graduate population has been going down. 69% in 2005, down to 51% in 2019. And the percentage for Hispanics have been going up over time from 12% in 2005 to 27% in 2019. The percentage of Black graduates over those times have stayed steady, 13 to 14%. Asian Pacific Islanders have also stayed steady, 5 to 7%. Same with American Indian, Alaska Native, although this one's a little different because it went from it rounds up to 1%, but this 1% here for the 2009 is significantly different than the rounded 1% for 2019, and then other has also increased over the time. So looking at the NAEP scores again for the individual race groups for overall. So for overall, you can see that the graduates went from score 151 in 2005 to 156 in 2009 and back down to 151 in 2019. And this is slightly different than what you see in the overall NAEP results because this is again for high school graduates. Like Lisa mentioned earlier, the NAEP assessments are covering all students, covers all students regardless of their graduation status. So it includes students who didn't graduate at the end of the year or may have dropped out after they took the NAEP assessment and so on. We're only looking at students who we verify as high school graduates, i.e. they graduated with a regular diploma or an honors diploma and their transcripts had complete information so that we could get an idea of their total coursework for 9th through 12th grades. So the scores are, again, a little different from the NAEP scores, but you can see it went from 151 to 156 and then back down to 151 in 2019. For whites, it went from 158 and increased to 162 in 2009 and then it dropped again from 2009 to 2019. You can see for blacks, 130, 129 up to 134, 134 dropped to 130. For Hispanics, 134 increased to 142 in 2009. And while it numerically dropped to 140 in 2019, it wasn't a significant difference between the 2 years. Asian Pacific Islanders, they also had a drop from 2009 to 2019, 179, 175, but again, not a significant decrease. American Indian and Alaska Native, it went from 148 in 2009 to 139 in 2019, and that was a significant decrease. And for the other category, it went from 159, actually increased to 160, and it was a significant increase. So we're seeing from looking at 2009 to 2019, specifically looking the 2 years with a drop of 5 points, you can see it again that the percentage distribution changed. One of the ways we can measure looking at this is, well, how much this effect did this composition of graduates, this racial ethnic composition, have on the overall score drop? And so what you could do, and you can take the 2019 scores and apply them to the 2009 percentages for the graduation. And so basically you can say, you can control the factor that says, look, if the high school graduation population had stayed the same, that same racial ethnic distribution in 2019 as it was in 2009, what would the score had been? So if you've taken these scores and applied it here, you have gotten a score of 153, or essentially 2 points greater than the 2019 score. So again, if you were just solely focusing on the racial ethnic distribution of high school graduates, you can say that that had a 2-point effect, on the drop of 5 points. So you could say 2 points was due to the racial ethnic composition and 3 points to other factors. Now again, this is only looking at just the racial ethnic distribution. This isn't like a full regression model that's going to take a look at a lot of values and a lot of other things like uh, other course taking variables or maybe other school measures uh, or demographics, etc. So it is only focusing on just that one, but you can see that still, even if you took the scores from 2019 and compared to 2009, there's still going to be a drop. There's still going to be a drop of 3 points, and so that's pretty interesting. So what Dr. Carr mentioned was that, well, if you can look at this same information using uh, using some of the variables in the high school transcript study, you'll see some interesting things. And one of the variables she had mentioned was the highest level mathematics course completed. So this next figure is taking a look at the highest level, the NAEP, let me try that again. The NAEP 12th grade mathematics assessment scores of the high school graduates in years 2005, 2009, 2019 by the highest level mathematics course earned. And so you can, from here, the bottom line here shows the scores for Algebra 1 or below. The line with the squares shows for geometry. The line with triangles shows for Algebra 2. The line with the diamonds shows it for the pre-calculus statistics and trigonometry category. And the X's up here show it for calculus. And so what you can see here is that, well, the majority of students majority of high school graduates are in the 3 levels of they're mostly in the 2 levels of Algebra 2 and pre-calculus statistics and trigonometry. And you can see that for Algebra 2, the 143 went down to 142 and then dropped 6 points down to 136 from 2009 to 2019. For pre-calculus statistics trigonometry, the 163 increased to 165 from 2005 to 2009, but then it dropped 9 points from 165 to 156 from 2009 to 2019. And if you look at geometry, you can see it went from 126 to 127 in 2009, and then dropped 8 points to 119 in 2019. The other 2 levels, well, if you took a look at the Algebra 1 or below, you can see 111 to 115 to 112. And even though there's, again, numerical decrease, this isn't a significant decrease, or a statistically significant decrease. As for calculus, well, interestingly enough, calculus went from 192 in 2005 down to a score of 190 in 2009, and then back up to 192 in 2019. Now, none of these changes are statistically significant, but these are only numerical drops and increases, but they've been pretty consistent across the across the time period. So finally, let's take a look at this by student race ethnicity. And so this table, excuse me, shows the highest three levels of category mathematics course earned. So the Algebra 2, pre-calculus and statistics and trigonometry and calculus, showing it by the four major race groups that reported: white, black, Hispanic, Asian, Pacific Islander. And again, focusing just on 2009 and 2019, Algebra 2 saw a drop. Well, everybody saw a drop. Whites saw a drop of 5 points, blacks 8 points, Hispanics 3 points, and Asian Pacific Islanders 13 points. Now, remember again that there wasn't the 44% of Asian Pacific Islanders were in the calculus group, and about another 33% were in the PS&T. So this is basically the bottom. This is the bottom quartile of Asian Pacific Islander graduates in terms of mathematics course, highest mathematics course level earned, etc. As for the pre-calculus statistics and trigonometry category, you've got whites dropped 5 points from 170 to 165, blacks went from 145 to 138, Hispanics went from 155 to 146, and Asian Pacific Islanders went from 171 to 164. But for calculus, well, again, it was a steady numbers across the years. Same thing here. Whites went 194 to 192, 194. Hispanics 181, 177, 179. Asian Pacific Islanders 195, 202, and 202. These 2005 and 2009 values are not significantly different from 2019. For Black graduates, though, for Black graduates who earn credits in calculus courses, they had dropped from 167 to 161 in 2009, but they rebounded in 2009 to 2019 from 16 points worth of rebound from 161 to 177. So this is again, it's interesting what you can tease out if you take a look, use some of the HSTS variables, course taking variables, on to the NAEP score data and such. So hopefully that gives you a little more detail of what Dr. Carr was talking about during the NAGB release event concerning the composition of high school graduates and their NAEP mathematics assessment scores. So going into the final topic we're going to cover in the agenda today, it's the HSTS resources. And we have 3 resources. We have an HSTS Web Report. We have restricted use data files. And we also have a NAEP High School Transcript Study Data Explorer. So we'll cover a little bit of these in details as right now. The HSTS Web Report, well, this is our years past. We had printed reports, and this was the first year that we did a web report. And that's because technically we haven't done a high school transcript studies in the last 10 years, and things have changed in reporting purposes for the last 10 years. So we now have a web report out there, and you can see from this here that it has several pages. We have a home page, which talks a little bit about the HSTS, and it has a highlights section below it. And the highlights covers the major highlights that we show in the report. There's a course taking section, and the course taking section is going to cover your figures for credits earned, for grade point averages, and for the curriculum levels. Again, that's our overall measure of high school curriculum rigor that we use for the high school transcript study. The next page is the NAEP scores, and that's going to show all our analyses where we compare various measures, various course-taking measures against NAEP mathematics and science assessment scores. The closer looks page is dedicated to topics about not the normal stuff that we report on, but what we specialty areas that we are reporting on in this for 2019. And that includes mathematics and science course taking, which includes the highest level mathematics and science courses earned. It also covers topics like the CTE courses into more detail, so it's broken up into all the 12 subject areas. It also talks about STEM courses, and it also talks about dual enrollment courses. The SCED code system, especially that course level component that Lisa talked about earlier, where we can indicate courses that earn college credits, um, make it much easier for us to report dual enrollment data. So courses that students are taking for both high school and college credit, usually in their senior year of high school. And so we discuss a little bit of that in the closer look section. Then finally, we have an about page, and the about page is basically gives a more in detail about uh, the various HSTS details. So a little bit about the methodology, a little bit more explanation of why we use Carnegie credits, how we standardize grades, more about the curriculum level, how we with the NAEP assessment scores, etc. So it's basically uh, a technical notes page, if you will. And we will be making this PowerPoint presentation available on the uh, AERA NAEP Studies SIG website after once we post the recording. And so you can click on this link here to go to the report from there. We also create a set of restricted use data files. And this is basically, this is everything that we've got, everything that we use to create our analyses. And for 2019, we have 7 files within 6 categories. We have a catalog file, so that's going to list all the catalogs we collected from the schools, the school districts, and the states. That's going to list all the courses in their catalogs and how we coded them, how the SCED codes they were assigned, and all those various flags. The NAEP data file, that's actually 2 data files. There's one for mathematics and one for science, and that's going to give you the reconditioned NAEP assessment scores for mathematics and science, as well as a set of linked weights. So again, we have 2 different sites of weights, 2 different types of weights used for a high school transcript study. We use a student weight, which we also call the unlinked weights, for when we talk about the course taking measures, because that includes all students. But we use a set of linked weights when we're talking about NAEP results, either math or science, because not all the students in the HSTS took the math or the science assessment. So we want to only concentrate on just those students who took the math assessments. So they include linked weights that you would use for those NAEP-related analyses. We have a school file, and the school file has the school demographic information that we collected as part of high school transcript study, as well as all the questions that were asked on the NAEP school questionnaire. We have a student data file, and the student data file covers a lot. The student data file covers the student demographics. It also covers a lot of course taking measures, the course taking measures that we've generated, things like the total credits earned, overall GPA. We've included that all in the student file, and as well as the unlinked student weights that I was talked about earlier, the weights that you use to do looking at various course taking measures, basically all your non-NAEP analyses, essentially. And it does not include many questions from the student background questionnaire. In fact, we only include a few questions from the student background questionnaire on the NAEP data files. And if you want to link that with the other student background questions that you get on the NAEP, that can be easily done. You can easily link to the NAEP data files. The school and student ID numbers that are on the HSTS files are the same as they are on the NAEP files. Going back to the files here, tests, the test file, when we get transcripts, we occasionally get information about test scores, and we're talking for HSTS purposes, we're talking about the standardized national test scores, things like SAT, ACT scores, and PSAT scores. Um, we get this information mostly if it's like, for example, the PDFs. We schools that they basically their electronic transcripts are PDF scans of their paper transcripts. Usually we get that type of information. And if that information is listed on the transcripts or it's listed on the electronic transcripts, we put that information in files so people can use it. Now, unfortunately, it's not something that all transcripts have. It only shows up if if it appears on the transcripts. So we're only getting data for test scores for about 10 to 15% of the students. So it's there. It can be used for some, I guess, internal checking purposes, but it's not something we normally recommend for, research publishing. And finally, it's the transcript file. So that's the file of that 2.3 million records, all those transcript records that we collected, each of the individual courses, and the information that was listed, like for the example, what grade the student took it, what school year the student took it, was it a year-long course, semester-long course, etc. And then a link up to the catalog ID number in the catalog file so you can hook it up there and to get the SCED code and other information. To get the restricted use data files, we included a link down here, and this is how you can get restricted use data files not only for HSTS but for NAEP as well. And uh, they have agreements that things, they have rules and regulations you can go through, but they also will provide the paperwork so as long as you meet those rules and regulations, you can get access to the restricted use data files. And finally, we are talking about the NAEP HSTS Data Explorer. This is an online tool, so you don't need to actually get the restricted use data files. Now, you're not going to be able to do all the analysis that you would want, but for most of the stuff that you want, you could probably go through the NAEP Data Explorer. And what this does is you can create data tables using the HSTS and NAEP data. You can run statistical significance tests, create charts and figures from this Data Explorer package, and you can save the output in a variety of formats. And again, there's a link to the HSTS Explorer down here. And this really is a great tool. This is the data tool we created in lieu of having a public use data sets essentially. And it takes a little getting used to, but once you get in the hang of using it, it is a very valuable tool thing. And that comes to the conclusion of our presentation for today. Thank you very much for attending the webinar today. And let me see here if I can open up. Anybody had any questions? You can raise hands or see if I can. Yeah, if you can raise your hands, I'll bring you on. I'll open up your mic. And if you don't want that, you can just type in a question in the chat. Okay, so we have hands up from Rachel. Okay, all right, Rachel. You may be on mute on your side.
Okay, thank you so much for allowing me to ask my question. So what I was wondering is, for the calculus, is it like AP calculus? Do you have data for AP statistics in the transcript study, or you are only having the 5 categories that you've talked about? Thank you.
When we do the highest level mathematics categories, we do all calculus courses. So that will cover AP Calculus AB, AP Calculus BC. It will cover the International Baccalaureate calculus courses, and it will cover all calculus courses that aren't AP or International Baccalaureate. So we talk about all calculus courses there. And when we create variables based on calculus for the student database, again, we take all calculus. We don't break out in the student database, we did create variables for credits earned in AP mathematics courses and credits earned in AP science courses, but we didn't break it out for individual individual AP courses. So if you wanted that, you could go to the restricted use databases and then use the SCED codes for the AP courses and calculate. You can use the AP Math AB course and the AP Math BC course, Calculus BC course. You can look at the SCED codes for those courses, and then you could run your own analysis. You're running restricted use data files. But the calculus courses include all the AP and IB, and the pre-calculus statistics and trigonometry do include AP statistics. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, if there are no other questions, then again, thank you very much for attending today's presentation. And again, we will be putting up this recording as well as the PowerPoint slides on the ARA NAEP Studies SIG website. Hopefully hopefully by the end of this week or early next week. And again, thank you very much for attending, and we hope you all have a great afternoon.